very much, Rich, and thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Democracy in this country is purely an illusion. We've got the political establishment of Tory and Labour playing musical chairs at the moment with power. In reality, there's not a cigarette paper between the two of them. They are both heading in the same direction, and they are ignoring the calls of the electorate to control our borders and protect our children, and most importantly, make a fairer society for all. We are ruled by an elite who have no interest in representing us and only themselves. Career politicians do not shout for the likes of you and I in Westminster. They are merely plastic dummies dancing to the tune of their masters for the hope of furthering their careers. The Labour Party have not represented the working class in decades. That party died along with the great and late John Smith. However, there is a left and right, but it's not as we perceive it to be. It's simply a term at the moment to divide and conquer us all. I don't think many people disagree that it's clear that the elite encourage mass immigration to increase their vote with the added bonus of suppressing wages to increase profits in a selfish act of putting themselves before the good of the people. Postal voting is another menace, and it's threatening our true democracy. It would appear that that this system of voting is absolutely, completely riddled with fraud. We've seen issues in places such as Tower Hamlets in London, just to name one example, where this is a hotbed for fraudulent activity. We've heard of members of the community collecting their postal votes and just dropping them off, filling them out and dropping off in the barrow load en masse. Voting by post should only be allowed in cases where there is no other option. It should not be open to all and sundry, where quite frankly anyone could use this vote. I've raised this many times with the Electoral Commission, but sadly they do not seem to take this seriously. However, after complaining about the lax rules of the ballot box voting, where shockingly anyone can turn up to vote at the polling station just by giving a name and address, a new trialling system was introduced last month in Swindon, where we'd see voters having to produce some form of ID. I mean, why was this not done years ago? Currently, in other areas of the UK, you could, in theory, vote for your neighbours who are on holiday. And I've heard of many cases in my own town where this has actually happened. Something as important as voting should have much tighter controls. If you and I to pick up a parcel from the post office, you must show ID. So it's simply a no-brainer to do this at a polling station. But it's little surprise that the only party to oppose this idea is Labour. It's incredible this massive hole in such an important right can be abused. Sadly, the other problem we have is the media, who are complicit with the dilution of democracy. The BBC being a prime example, where we witnessed their appalling bias during and after the Brexit referendum. Throughout the general election campaign, we also see heavy coverage aimed at the usual red and blue parties. And this gives the impression that there's only two options to vote for. And this is what makes the whole election process a two-horse race. Media coverage must be a level playing field throughout the period. I myself have experienced it firsthand through my election campaigns, where if I try to talk about anything like foreign aid, immigration or Brexit, I'd be immediately closed down, and the interviewer would just completely change the subject. Local papers are the same as well. I've been attacked locally by a lovely Swindon advertiser. I don't know if anyone here reads it, because my views on mass immigration, and I've had this issue here where I was apparently sowing the seeds of hate, plastered everywhere for all and sundry to see, and basically they've used this power to close me down. This is a stark reminder of the enemy that we're up against. It's utilising the greatest weapon of all, and that's the media in all its form, from the press to social media. The Nazi propaganda minister Goebbels was another person in history who ruthlessly took advantage of this method, spewing out Hitler's propaganda on an industrial scale. And make no mistake, we are definitely seeing this again. I believe the only option to restore democracy once more is to unite all the fringe parties together, such as the Lib Dems, the Green, and of course UKIP. We need to start working together to force a proportional representation system. This is our only hope to bring back true democracy and represent the people once more. But make no mistake, the establishment will do anything to try and prevent this, because they know they will start to lose their grip on power. People should not have to live in a society where they are basically bullied in voting in a way for fear of the consequences rather than voting for what they believe in. We should be free to vote for the party that best represents us. We cannot progress as a society while our hands and mouths are tied like this. I am really fearful of the future, and I feel we have to act now before we head even further into dictatorship. We are living in very dark times, and some might call it Orwellian, as we have seen with the recent Tommy Robertson fast that Luke and I will be attending later in protest against. If we fail to do something now, we may never get another chance to overturn this, and all fringe parties, all political fringe parties, must put our differences aside now and unite and fight for a proportional representation system. You know, and I think even if that means boycotting an election to make a stand against it, just to show up the main parties. You know, with the current two-horse race, it's a complete waste of time and resources trying to overturn the political establishment. And I honestly believe this is the only way we can really restore the true democracy. Thank you.